I guess we are live. Let me just verify. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. I hope you are. So we are audible here. Okay, so 34 people were already waiting for us, and then we have so many chat here. Okay, sorry so much for the delay as we were doing some setup. When we have these type of sessions where you have an expert with us, so we need to do this dual setup which takes time. So everything looks good. I can hear myself properly, and I'll be only using. Oh, we have to use headphones as well. Okay, so first of all, everyone, this is a special session. If you remember, we used to do this way back when we used to. In fact, I guess it is month Feb. I guess we started that. This is the fifth talk, tech talk. We can say normally we can have different names for this, but then I went for tech talks. So the planning is to take industry expert talking to you people because, of course, right, I'm not a master of everything. So I know some topics I'm not good with other topics. So I thought let's industry expert will be the best thing here. And so finally, it's very difficult to actually to get someone from the industry. And finally we got Chetan here, and Chetan he is into trading from a long time. It's almost been. Should I reveal your number of experience, Chetan? So it's almost 30 years now. He's into industry and doing a lot of different stuff, trading in different big companies. And from last few years, he's also working on Hadoop, which is something which I wanted to do from a long time, but then I was lazy. So Chetan is here. So Chetan, all yours.
Yeah, thanks, Naveen. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And thanks for coming.
Yeah, so I hope that my voice is audible and we don't have any problem in linkages. Can we
Yeah,
just
it's
have a
perfect. It's perfect.
conversation? Okay, great. So, as Naveen has already said, that I've been in training for some years and I've been working with Hadoop since 2014 or so, more from an exploration point of view. And I started conducting sessions on Hadoop by 2016 or so. So I think for the last 2.5 years, I've been teaching Hadoop. And prior to that, I have around 12 years experience teaching Java and open source technologies. So that's the training experience that I have. And continuing from then onwards, I think we are going to be talking about a little bit about Hadoop and the basic background of Hadoop and why somebody should talk about Hadoop and who can be the right candidate, right? So I
Yeah.
understand, Naveen, that we might have certain questions that the audience might be interested in hearing about.
Yes. In
So,
fact, before picking their questions, I have some my questions from my side.
yeah,
When I wanted to learn Hadoop, in fact, I have consulted so many people before learning Hadoop. I guess it is year 2015, and then I was not getting proper guidance on that. So finally, there. So I guess my audience are lucky here to actually have someone who can answer the question now. Uh, so Chetan, the first question to you. In fact, I have written all the questions on mobile phone in case if I
yeah,
forgot something. So the first question is, when you talk about year 2000, there was a big bubble, which is internet bubble, which
right.
bursted, right? And when you talk about machine learning, blockchain, they all are new terms. And some
Right.
people say, blockchain, machine learning, they're just bubble. Maybe it will burst someday. How about big data? Is it a burst or is it a bubble or something? Or is it
Yeah.
something which is real?
Correct. So from developers' point of view, it is always important to understand whether the new technology is worth spending some time or not. So based on my experience and based on what I've seen in the industry so far, is there's a huge interest in what big data can do for people. And if you actually take a look around you, you will see that big data is already here. It has
Hmm.
already started impacting our lives. For example, when you open Google, you open Gmail, and you get to see certain advertisements which you might not even think about, and you just realize that okay, I was thinking about it, and suddenly I see a mail. So how
Okay.
does this happen? Magic, right? But
Hmm.
it's actually based on certain algorithms which Google uses, and those algorithms actually use big data and analytics associated with big data. That is one aspect of that. Second
Okay.
aspect which you might have seen is that when you purchase something online, like you go to Flipkart or you go to eBay and you purchase something, and at the bottom of the screen, at the bottom of the page, you get to see the recommendations. like your friends have purchased this, or the kind of things that you might be interested in purchasing.
Yeah.
So that is what is done by using predictive modeling of Hadoop. So it is already here, and as we see, it's going to impact each and every aspect of our daily lives. And a couple of days back, I was going through a survey which was done a couple of months back, and it talked to around 1,000 or so multinational companies around the world, and they wanted to understand their preparedness for going with big data. And it was suggested that around 70 to 75% of companies are shifting to big data in the next 6 to 9 months,
Oh.
and 25 to 30% companies are already on big data and exploring that. Now, if you take a look at the Indian sector, and I'll focus more on the core development sectors like Infosys and bigger companies that you have in India.
Hmm.
They had actually started exploring big data by 2013 itself, and
Okay.
by 2015 they already had a center of excellence in their in-house center of excellences
Hmm.
where POCs were being developed. And by now, 2018, I am sure that most of the companies have started development into that. And if you take a look at the training industry, so even from training point of view, we can say that there are lots of requirements coming in, and the training requirement would come only if the company is thinking of making an investment into big data. So I don't think it's going to be just a buzzword. It's going to be here for at least 15 to 20 years next.
Oh, that's great. So, in fact, you might be getting a lot of trainings, right?
Yeah, definitely. So as a trainer, you should definitely take a look at
Okay.
that.
Great, great. And okay, why it is called? In fact, yeah. So when you say data, if we, in fact, I feel we are living in information world, right? The most important entity nowadays is not oil. In India, yes, it is oil, but then uh, the new we say for data is a new oil, right? But
Right.
why it is called as big? In fact, is it something where you have huge? It's just because of NTFS. In Windows we have NTFS, then we have Pareto, right? NTFS provides you a
Correct.
bigger blocks.
Correct.
So why this class big? In fact, if you can put some light on that.
Right. See, the whole point of big data is that the amount of data that we are working with today is huge.
Yeah.
Okay. So probably when we started into this industry, we were very happy to have a 20 MB hard disk, and we were overjoyed when we got 1 GB.
Yeah.
Now, if you take a look at individuals, you will see that most of us have our personal footprints in terabytes.
Hmm.
I mean, when I came into industry 30 years back, my personal footprint was probably 10K,
Okay.
right? But today, my personal footprint in terms of my files, the applications that I build, the tools that I use, all combined together is around 17 terabytes. And
Hmm.
I'm sure that you and everyone else who's connected with us right now is somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to go through that kind of data, if somebody wants to analyze that kind of data, then normal RDBMS or normal ways that we have been doing things doesn't really work.
Okay.
There is one aspect of that because we are working with huge amount of data, and
Hmm.
since we are living in a connected world, everybody is connected to everything. Okay,
Okay.
and now with the ubiquitous computing like IoT and everything, it's going to grow exponentially, where
Yeah.
devices are going to talking to each other, and you need to take a look at that, and you need to mine the data, and the data which is going to be coming to us doesn't really have any kind of a structure. I
Okay.
mean, you don't know how the data is going to be coming in.
Hmm.
Is it going to be 10 columns? Is it going to be 50 columns? It may also be possible that for a simple data set, you may have one entity having, let's say, 10 characteristics, something else might have 50 characteristics, and we need to show them as a single unit.
Okay.
Normal tabular structure doesn't really help me. So
Okay.
then we had the new developments like NoSQL and so on forth, right?
Hmm.
So NoSQL helps you build with, work with data which is non-structured. So
Hmm.
what big data does basically is that it allows you to have the non-structuredness of the NoSQL, and it
Hmm.
also allows you to have huge amount of data to be stored and mined very easily, very fast. Now, just to
Okay.
give an example, if you take a look at a company like Walmart, who have lots of chains and shops and all over the world. So it is estimated that Walmart generates around 15 terabytes of data per week.
Okay.
And if Walmart needs to go through this data
Hmm.
to take a look at what the customers are doing and so on and so forth, then you can imagine the kind of data that they need to work with. Can
Hmm.
RDBMS work with it? Possibly yes. But then the whole point of RDBMS is that it needs a structure.
Okay.
Whereas big data can take anything that you throw at it and it can help you store it, retrieve it, search, filter, whatever you want to do, right?
Mhm.
So the reason why we call it as a big data is that it's huge. I mean, if you think in terms of implementing big data, you should probably think in terms of petabytes of data. Tera is also small.
Okay. Great. In fact, we are talking about big data, right? In fact, we have a framework for big data, which is Hadoop, right? The topic itself is about Hadoop. In fact, before going for Hadoop,
Right.
I have so if everyone, aliens, if you are enjoying these sessions, because it's very difficult for me to set up these tech talks with experts. If you enjoy these sessions, that just click on like hit like button, right? So if that likes does motivate us, to have more people on bench, right? It was very difficult to convince Chetan as well. So that hit that like button there if you enjoy these sessions. And let me just go back to Chetan. So Chetan, next question to you
Hmm.
is the about Hadoop, right? So example, let's say I know Hadoop now because it took me some time to understand it. What if
Right.
I want to explain Hadoop to someone who is very new to tech industry? Example, they are from different background, let's say from commerce, let's say they're into banking,
Correct.
and they don't know about much about technology, right? So how would you explain them that what Hadoop is?
Okay. Simply put, from layman's perspective, I would categorize Hadoop as something which allows you to search for a needle in a haystack.
Okay.
Right? The example that we keep on talking about from the language perspective, that you want to search something and you want to find something from the data which is going to be coming to you. Now, there are two aspects of Hadoop that you will always be encountering when you go to the field. One is going to be predictive modeling,
Okay.
as to why we talk about Hadoop. And the second is going to be data analysis. So,
Mhm.
predictive modeling is something like you try to predict what the data is going to be doing even before the data comes in.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, it's like you don't even have the data, but you still want to take some decisions based on that.
Okay.
Now, how would you do that? So, to do that, Hadoop uses some predictive modeling analysis tools, which allows you to build some algorithms. And based on that algorithm, you can actually decide as to what's going to happen 3 years down the line. You must have, when the World Cup was going on, you must have heard about the, predictions in football matches and so on and so forth,
Yeah.
right? Polly the octopus became very famous, right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
Hadoop is actually going to replace Polly the octopus.
Okay.
Okay, and just to give you a real life example, 2014. If you, I'll talk about 2014 because 2018, from Germany's point of view, was miserable. But
Okay.
2014 Germany, uh,
Mhm.
they use big data big time.
Okay.
32 teams which came to World Cup, German team had actually information about all the players of the remaining 31 teams,
Mhm.
all the data associated with what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, how do they play, how do they throw, and everything, right? And based
Mhm.
on that, for each and every match, they prepared a plan.
Okay.
But this could be done only with big data, because what kind
Okay.
of data to be stored and retrieved and processed, nobody knew, right? So they just held the data whenever required, mine the data, do whatever that needs to be done, and
Mhm.
predict how a person is going to behave in a certain scenario. Now, same
Perfect.
thing can be applied to the business domain as well.
Mhm.
Banks are going for big data big time because banks would like to understand how the market is going to behave. Banks would like to understand how the customers are going to be looking at the financial sector. The
Mhm.
banks need to give advices to their customers in terms of what kind of investment strategies they should have, and so on and so forth,
Mhm.
right? So that is one use of Hadoop which is going to be coming in. Second use, as we said, that it's going to be used for analysis purpose. Like you
Okay.
would like to understand the historical data, and based on that, decide
Mhm.
how you would like to strategize your organization or whatever that you need to do,
Mhm.
right? So if you want to have data processing done and you want to have data analysis done live as the data comes in, then probably big data is the best option for you. So from layman's point of view, I would say that if you want to know the future before it happens, go for big data.
Mhm. Oh, okay. Perfect. In fact, with that, I do get a lot of questions based on, especially from freshers. Example, some of them they go for Android because it is trending. Some people go for Python programming, and some people go for web development. And then sometime, I do suggest them to go for Hadoop. But then they have this question: do we have vacancies for freshers in case of Hadoop? So I want to
Yeah,
know your point here.
absolutely. I mean, Hadoop, let me share my experiences. When I started working with Hadoop about 2015 or so, when I started conducting sessions, the kind of requirements that came in from job perspective was for people with experience. Now, that
Okay.
normally happens when companies are trying to set up POCs because they would like to understand, they would like to see people who have experience. But now, 2017 onwards, what we are seeing is that there is a huge requirement for freshers in big data environment.
Hmm.
And this takes the point that now people have started looking at how it can be implemented and they need people to implement that.
Okay.
Okay, there are different profiles associated with big data. You have big data scientists, you have big data analysts, you have big data engineers and infrastructures and so on and so forth. So
Hmm.
again, going to market numbers, what we are seeing is that out of the entire requirement for big data scientist as a profile, the number of vacancies against the number of job positions which have been filled, the ratio is around 20 to 80.
Oh,
That
okay.
is, around 20% of the jobs are filled and 80% are vacant because they are not finding people.
Okay.
Okay. And the size of the market, if you see from the point of view of the application market, it's around $60 billion per year.
Okay.
And it is growing 52% year to year.
Okay.
And
So I
if you
would say
think in
stop doing anything else and start learning big data, right?
okay, at this point, I would also like to put a disclaimer that because we are talking about Hadoop, I would like to make it very clear that Hadoop is not a replacement for RDBMS.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, let's not have this scenario that I would tell people that okay, learn, I should be knowing Hadoop because I'm not happy with RDBMS. So
Okay.
RDBMS ki bala tali and I will work with only Hadoop. That's not going to happen. RDBMS will be there, Hadoop will be there. Both of them have their own modus operandi, but they have their own user. They have their own scope where they're going to be used. So when
Hmm.
you have a situation where you want to have day-to-day transactional activities, nothing beats RDBMS. But when you
Perfect.
want to do some kind of data marketing or when you want to do some kind of data analysis or as we said predictive modeling, then
Hmm.
RDBMS doesn't really catch up with that. So in reality, what you will be having will be a hybrid system.
Okay.
You will have some piece of the application being used with RDBMS and some part of the application with Hadoop.
Okay. So if I want to learn Hadoop now, let's say, I'm feeling motivated now because, I love technology. So the moment
Right.
I see a new technology which is quite booming, I move towards that. So let's say if I want to learn Hadoop now,
Mhm.
do you think it's easy or I have to spend a lot of time learning that?
Okay, there are
So,
two parts to this. If you want to start writing code, then I think writing code for Hadoop is going to be pretty easy. It's
okay.
not very difficult. Uh,
Mhm.
Primarily, okay, by now, almost all the major programming languages have provided support to Hadoop. So you have C Sharp and Hadoop, you have C++ and Hadoop, and number of other languages which you can work with Hadoop. Okay,
Okay.
but when we started off with, there were only two options, either Java or Python.
Hmm. Okay.
So if you want to start working with Hadoop, you need to learn, or at least you need to know one of the programming languages. My
Okay.
personal choice, and obviously because I'm biased towards Java, would be Java
Mhm.
or Python. So if you know only core Java, that should be sufficient. You don't need to understand the Java EE and so on and so forth. If you know, that will be great. But if you don't, even then it will be fine.
Okay.
Right? Similarly, in case of Python, you just need to understand the basic packages. You don't really need to get into the deeper aspects of that.
Hmm.
Databases, good if you know, but again, it's something which is good to have, not must to have.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, and then with Hadoop we have one more, right, which is MapReduce. I guess it's
Correct?
from Google.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, it all started with from Yahoo, and then
okay,
Google
okay.
popularized it, and then picked up, and then it went to Apache. They started building the framework, and then we had the bigger thing coming in.
Hmm.
So MapReduce is rather let me tell you something from again it's something which might disillusion a lot of us
Okay.
that Hadoop is not really a new thing.
Hmm.
We are talking about HDFS and MapReduce as the basic building blocks of Hadoop.
Yeah.
Okay. But MapReduce was in existence long before Hadoop came in.
Mm-hmm.
HDFS or distributed file systems were in use. I don't know if somebody remembers Novel Netwares. It
So
was an
which
OS
one?
with Novel Netware,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
right? Long time back. I mean, people might not
Yeah.
even remember or heard about that. So Novel Netware, I guess, was the first kernel for building distributed file systems.
Okay.
So we had these components in place. What Hadoop does is it takes both the components together and merges them together seamlessly.
Mm-hmm.
So we can use them as a single entity, right? So HDFS is nothing but a way of storing the data, but on multiple nodes. I'm
Okay.
using a fancy term node, but it's nothing but a simple machine.
Mm-hmm.
So I can use a network of multiple machines, hold my data wherever it may go. It is invisible to me as a user. So as a user, I don't know where my file is, right?
Okay.
And to be truthful, I don't even care
Okay.
because ultimately, Hadoop is going to make that file available to me. I don't have to worry about how the file is going to be stored.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the bigger benefit that I get from this is I'm no longer worried about my file systems or my capacities or anything. Everything is going to be taken care of by Hadoop. And that is
Okay.
why I come back to the point which I made earlier that if you want to start writing the code, it's going to be very easy. All you need to do is either write a code in Java or Python or any language that of your choice, and your job will be done, right?
Okay.
But if you want to understand how Hadoop works, if you want to go into deeper aspects of Hadoop in terms of the components that you're going to be having, as of last
Mm-hmm.
count, there are about 45 to 50 different components which sit on top of HDFS and MapReduce. So if
Mm-hmm.
you really want to understand what happens in there, then probably you might need to dive a little deeper,
Okay.
which might take a little time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So as a fresher, you can definitely work with MapReduce and HDFS immediately. All you need
Okay.
to understand or all you need to know is just how to write the code.
Okay. In fact, let me show you one more experience which I had. So when I was learning Hadoop, at the same time, in the same year, I guess, which 2014 or 15, Apache came up with Spark. And then, people got, so in fact, I got confused. Should I go for Spark or Hadoop? So what's the main difference between these two? I mean, in terms of business, in terms of performance? So,
Naveen, I couldn't hear your question. Can you please repeat that again?
yeah, it's about difference between Hadoop and Spark.
Okay.
So what's the main difference between these two?
Okay. Comparing both of them together, then Spark, I would say that Spark is one component which is part of Hadoop.
Okay.
And from comparisons point of view, I could compare Spark with MapReduce because
Okay.
Spark is also used for retrieving the data. I mean, generally speaking, Spark has lots of other uses as well. But if
Hmm.
you want to talk about data analysis and data retrieval and data manipulation, then we can use Spark.
Okay.
Performance wise, it has been benchmarked that Spark works around, it is claimed that it works 100 times faster. But what we've
Hmm.
seen through benchmarks is that you definitely get around 35 to 40 times faster as compared to MapReduce. It
Okay.
obviously depends on the kind of data that you're working with and kind of requirements that you have. But
Hmm.
Spark definitely is faster than the normal standard MapReduce that you're going to be working with.
Okay. Great. That was my question, and thank you for answering my questions, Chetan. In fact, we got 276 people watching this. Come on, guys, if you enjoyed these whole sessions, hit that like button because that is something which motivate me and our partners there, right? So just click on the like button there if you are enjoying this type of sessions. And I guess Chetan, we can pick up questions from the chat window now because I can see so many questions there, right? The moment we say
Okay,
that we are getting next questions. Chetan, I guess you can also see those questions. Let me just help you with the questions if you want,
right.
or would you like to pick up from your machine? So by the time Chetan you pick up the question, let me just see if I can find something.
Okay, I see a couple of questions which talk about how to learn something after doing graduation, like BCom or BCA or something like that.
Yeah,
Probably I can take that as a single question where everybody might have the similar kind of query.
yeah.
Talk to a trainer, probably Naveen, and the trainer will be able to guide you in terms of how you can learn this. But as I keep on saying that if you want to write code, then writing code is going to be very easy. It's not very difficult. Okay,
Hmm.
there are certain articles available, there are certain websites available, and the only problem with Hadoop as of now, as from learning from your own point of view, when I started learning Hadoop, there were not a lot of resources available. Okay, so initial few months I spent just trying to make it work on Windows.
Okay.
Okay. And then I realized that it doesn't happen, right? So this is the pitfall of going into new technology, right?
Yeah.
Just as an addition to that, starting with Hadoop version 2.2.3.x onwards, Hadoop can now
Hmm.
also work on Windows. They've
Okay.
extended the support. But
Great.
initial days, Hadoop and Windows, that combination didn't fly,
Hmm.
right? So what you need to do is you need to take a look at someone who knows the technology and take the guidelines from that person and start working on your own. It's my personal belief that learning technology is not rocket science. You just need a good guide. You just need somebody who can hold your hand and you can direct you towards where you need to go. And since all of you are talking to Naveen regularly, I'm sure that you have somebody who can guide you pretty well.
Oh,
Naveen, I'm putting pressure on you to
thank
give
you
me
so
help.
much for that. Yeah. Okay. In fact, Chetan, I have one question for you. Apart from the Hadoop one, every day you might be taking trainings for different people, some freshers and some from expert in the industry. In fact, when I used to go for training, I had some batches where we had experienced candidates, and then of course, right, we have a different experience when we train to freshers and then when we train to experienced people. So, and then somewhere I feel, if these freshers, if they could have learned something before, it would have made my job easier to teach them in the batch, right? Uh, would you like to suggest anything to the freshers who are getting into the company now? If you can learn some basic skills so that when we train them in the industry, it will be easier
Right.
for us.
Right. What I would suggest is that get your fundamentals clear.
Okay.
I mean, even for freshers or people who are already placed or people who are looking for, skill enhancements or something like that, you need to have your fundamentals clear. Like even if you're working with Android or big data or any of the fancy technologies,
Mhm.
people will judge you on your core Java understanding.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I had a scenario where I had conducted a batch for Android a few years back, and I had
Mhm.
trained around 20-25 students, and we
Mhm.
sent them for an interview in some company. Out of 20-25, around 15 got rejected. And
Oh.
when we asked them as to what was the reason, the company said that forget about Android. We never reached Android. The candidates were not comfortable with core Java itself.
Oh, okay.
Naveen, can you give me one small second?
Sure, sure, sure.
I think I charged my mobile, but it still is going down.
Sure,
Give me
sure.
a second.
Go on, go on. Till that point, I will take over. Okay, so Chetan will be back in some time, and till that, I will try to answer some of your questions, apart from big data, of course. Uh, so, what's the best place to learn Hadoop? In fact, okay, I will ask Chetan for that. Uh, yeah, so in fact, Chetan is back. In fact, before going ahead, if you enjoyed this session, guys, so come on, guys, click the like button there. That's what motivates us to do these type of sessions. Um, okay, so Chetan is back, I guess, but till that point,
Yes, Naveen, I'm back.
okay, perfect. Then you take over, Chetan.
Sure. So let's see, few more questions. Give me a second while I just go through the.
Yeah, how to get started with big data? That's one of the question I can see. It's the latest
Okay,
one.
right. So first thing that you do is you download Hadoop, obviously,
Okay.
and it is free, open source,
Yeah.
and all you need to do is unzip the code which you're going to be downloading, and it will also come with its own documentation. So
Mhm.
before you actually get into that, I would suggest that you take a look at the structure and the components which are associated with Hadoop. That will give you a better idea in terms of what is involved in all this stuff. Okay,
Okay.
and we trainers have a kind of a running joke that if you want to learn any new technology, the first thing that you need to do is you need to write the hello world code.
That's inauguration.
Right. I mean, if you don't write the hello world code, muhurat hota nahi hai and you don't learn the technology.
Yeah, that's right.
Similarly, in case of Hadoop, the first thing that you can immediately do, and there are thousands of examples available on the public domain, is that you need to do something called as a word count program.
Hmm.
Right. So the word count program is the hello world of Hadoop,
Okay.
which is pretty simple, which is pretty straightforward. Uh,
Hmm.
Initially, we are going to recommend that you don't focus on the syntax. Just take a look at the code. Just take a look at how to
Okay.
execute that.
Hmm.
And by and by, as you start practicing, you will realize as to how the code is working. Okay. And probably I'll also share a few links with you for a few articles with you, and I'll also share some content with you through Navin in terms of what exactly can be the road path for learning Hadoop and
Okay.
what are the different milestones that you need to hit before you can say that, okay, now I know Hadoop.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. In fact, I can see one more question, Chetan, here, which is from Rajesh Ratan. I'm working as an application support engineer. I want to change my profile. Please advise me. Should I go for big data or DevOps?
Okay. This is a little tricky question because tricky not from the point of view of answer, but tricky from the point of view of the requirement.
Yeah.
Because if you are coming from a background which has been non-programming, I would say non-technical, it's not non-technical, but non-programming, and you would still like to be connected with big data, yes, you can do that. Other than programming, there are two options available, two major options available, which I would say so. One is you can get into the data analytics part, which
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really need you to do hardcore programming. You
Mm-hmm.
just need to have logic, and I'm sure that all of you have the logic. Second part, which is a little unknown and which not a lot of people are focusing on, that is that the infrastructure management for Hadoop. It's a very raw field right now. There are not a lot of people who are into infrastructure management. It's because Hadoop is good and everything. You know, you have lots of nodes working and you have the clusters and so on and so forth. But who's going to set it up, right?
Okay.
So you need people who are into the admin aspect of that. And if you're coming from support engineering, and if you really want to get into programming, then definitely you should think about getting into Hadoop.
Mm-hmm.
Either you should have some understanding of Java or Python. Again, let me repeat, I am biased towards Java and open source community, but otherwise you can learn any technology as in C sharp or C++ or anything which will allow you to work with big data.
Okay.
Okay. So if you want to go into programming, if you're a hardcore programming program lover, then in that case, you should learn the programming language and go to that. But if you are coming from a technical background and you would still like to be connected with Hadoop without doing any kind of programming, there are other options available as well.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. One more thing which you can think about is that we keep on talking about data scientist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so data scientist is not really a field which will require you to do a lot of programming. There will be a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of programming, sorry, but the data scientist part is more from the point of view of the analysis of the data,
Okay.
because the programmers will write some tools or write some code which will mine the data and give me the result. But what
Mm-hmm.
to do with the result? Okay,
Okay.
for example, there are lots of pharmaceutical companies going into big data because they do the drug trials and results based on that and finding out if the drug is potent or not potent and so on and so forth. So
Mm-hmm.
I can write a code as a programmer. I can write a code which can filter out the data and present only the data which is required.
Okay.
Okay, but not being from a pharmaceutical background, I have zero idea about what to do with the data.
Mm-hmm.
So I need some domain understanding. So data scientist is a field which is ripe for people who are coming from non-technical background.
Okay.
Statistics is a must. You need to be good at statistics. And there are a couple of tools which you can work with called as R Studio, and you can also work with Tableau. It's a UI tool which helps you visualize that,
Okay.
which will help you build some cases, some hypotheses in terms of what the data is telling you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because as a programmer, it's like me knowing German. I can speak German, I can learn, I can read German, I can write German, but I don't understand it,
Okay. That's weird.
right?
Yeah.
That's how I'm doing as a programmer. That I know how to write the code, I know how to get the data, but what to do with
Yeah.
the data, I have no idea.
Okay.
Okay. right? So that is also one of the fields that you can probably look at if you are, you know, not really happy with programming or you're coming from non-technical background.
Hmm. Okay, perfect. Yeah, in fact, we have one more question here. In fact, the same question I had when I wanted to go for Hadoop is, once I know Java, I can train people, I can work on the projects, right? But when it comes to Hadoop, we do have certifications, right, from Cloudera, from
Right,
Hortonworks. Do we
right.
really need to get certified to work on Hadoop? Let's say if I'm not
Uh,
certifying because the
Not
exam fees is very high.
really, right?
So can we get a
Not
job?
really. I mean, it's not really must for getting a job
Mhm.
because, as I said, see, the field is very raw and there is a lot of requirement available right now.
Okay.
The certification becomes must with Java and such kind of languages because there are lots of people and we need to filter out something, right? I mean, for
Mhm.
one post, I get 100 people. So to
Okay.
filter out, I use a certification.
Oh yeah.
But for big data, there are 100 jobs required and I have only two people available with me. So anybody who's good at Hadoop, I'll take them.
Mhm.
I'll not worry about certification. But
Okay.
going ahead, when the stream becomes saturated, then definitely the certification is going to help. And
Okay.
it's my personal opinion. Again, it's a personal opinion. I found that Hortonworks certification is comparatively much better as compared to Cloudera,
Okay.
and I would suggest going for either one of them. Other
Mhm.
than that, I have not really explored, so I can't really talk about that. But
Okay.
I have heard good things about only these two.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Do you want
I
to
had
pick up some
I
questions
had
from
one
there?
question, which was talking about which language is good for machine learning with Hadoop. I would like to take that if that is okay with you.
Yeah. I mean, it's all yours.
Right.
It's your
The
session today.
question was which language is good for working with machine learning and Hadoop, whether it is Java
Mhm.
or Python or Scala. Then my choice is also going to be now dependent on the requirement that is going to be coming in.
Okay.
If you want to work with Spark, Spark is fast, no doubt about that. So if you want to work with Spark, Scala would be the best option because Spark libraries and Spark itself is primarily made built on top of Scala. So
Mhm.
if you know Scala, if you learn Scala, that would be the best choice for building machine learning code. If you are someone who has lots of ideas but not really programming experience, then machine learning would be best working with Python. Python has a huge amount of libraries available to work with machine learning. So Python machine learning is a good combination.
Okay.
Then what about Java? Can I do machine learning with Java? Yes, I can, but comparatively, it's a bit difficult. So
Mhm.
my personal choice in order of preference would be go for Scala with Spark, then Python, then Java.
Okay. Perfect. Uh, with that, I have a question. Let's say if I start with, in fact, this is a question from someone. I've just lost the question there. The question is about, yeah, it's here. It's from Vicky. How much time it takes to learn Hadoop? Let's say if I start today and if I
Okay.
spend, let's say, 5 hours a day. So,
I think you will be ready for level one in about a month's time
okay.
if you spend 5 hours a day.
Hmm.
But level one is just that. It's level one.
Okay.
Okay. So you'll be able to write some code. You will be able to, show something on the screen, but you will still not be interview ready.
Okay.
So if you're looking at it from the point of view of appearing for an interview, I would suggest that you spend at least 5 hours a day for 3 months, and that will be good enough to face the interview panel.
Hmm. Okay. Perfect. There's one more question. If you can pick up that, I don't know. It's about
Let me
Hadoop
just take a
setup
look at that.
from Naresh. What is the best Hadoop setup or architecture for handling big data with good performance?
Okay, if we are talking in terms of hardware requirements, I would suggest that you have a machine with at least 8 GB RAM.
Okay.
Anything less, it's going to be nightmare.
Okay.
I mean,
Especially on Windows. Yeah.
we do keep on saying that Hadoop can work with over-the-counter hardware, but it's actually a myth because I have seen that people try to work with Hadoop with 2 GB RAM and 4 GB RAM. It
Yeah.
takes hell amount of time to get the process done.
Hmm.
Okay, so if you're going to be having lots of machines with 4 GB RAM, probably that might work. But if you're going to be learning from learning point of view, definitely I would suggest 8 GB RAM is a must. And have a hard disk which allows you to work with at least 50 to 60 GB data, because you're going to be using that for storing HDFS information on that.
Okay.
Uh, though I'm not recollecting that right now, but when I was exploring Hadoop initially, we also had some problems with chipsets.
Okay.
Specific chipsets do not really support the virtual machines if you're going to be working with virtual machines. So you might also want to take a look at that.
Yeah.
Uh, what I've been working with for the last few years is an Intel i5 machine.
Okay.
That was fine. Anything above that would also be good enough.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. In fact, there's one more question from Rupak. Is how can I get best resources for Hadoop? Let's say if I want to learn, and if you don't want to join our classes, uh,
Okay.
do we have any free resources available?
Yes, there are resources available, but again, the problem is the same thing, that it's an open source community.
Okay.
So you have lots of experts out there, right? So
Okay.
and right now, because it's a new technology, there is not any benchmark associated with the data coming in. Because if
Hmm.
you go to other technologies, you might know certain websites which you can trust blindly.
Okay.
That if it appears on that website, I don't have to look anywhere else. That is the final word.
Okay.
So far with Hadoop, that has not happened. It has not settled
Hmm.
yet. So you
Okay.
might want to, exercise your own common sense and try to understand that if a person A is saying this and person B is saying that, which one do I follow, right?
Okay.
And my again recommendation is going to be, if you want to learn something on your own, fantastic. But there are problems, and the problems which I mentioned earlier, that you might go down blind alleys,
Yeah.
and then coming back and learning something again, it is fine, you will be able to learn a lot of things, but if time is a constraint, then that will be a problem.
Yeah. That's right. Okay. Perfect. So there are so many questions
Okay,
just popping up there. I'm just
there's one
looking
more
at it, and
question.
then there are so many
What is
questions which are
better,
coming. So
Spark or
would like to
F-Link?
pick up someone?
Yep, what is better, Spark or F-Link? Personally, I have worked more with Spark rather than F-Link, and F-Link I will just explore, not going into details. Sorry, but comparatively, I found Spark to be better as compared to F-Link. But again, it's based on what I have done. So it's my experience. From my experience point of view, I would suggest Spark would be a better option, because Spark also gives you lots of possibilities for other libraries. So it can also
Okay.
be a one-stop solution for everything.
Hmm. We forgot the most important question. This is from Salman and Salman Muhammad, and question is, what are the
Yeah.
prerequisite for learning Hadoop?
Nothing. As I said, you need to have one programming language, either Java or Python or C Sharp or C++, and
Okay.
you should be good at that programming language. Okay. Just knowing the language is not going to be cutting it. Uh, if I may, I may also share certain, APIs which you need to be pretty comfortable with. Taking Java as an example, you can map it with other technologies.
Hmm.
If you go with Java, then you need to be absolutely crystal clear about object orientation. You will never be able to escape that. Then
Okay.
you need to understand file handling. You need to be damn good at collections,
Hmm.
because collections are used heavily in MapReduce and Hadoop and all the components associated with Hadoop.
Okay.
You need to be comfortable with databases, though we are not going to be using databases, but certain concepts and terminologies that we are going to be using, it would be best if you are acquainted with that. If you
Hmm.
know Java EE, great. If you do not know Java EE, still fine,
Okay.
right? So the two major libraries that you should be very much thorough with is collections and
Hmm.
file handling.
Okay. And how about threads? Do we require threads?
Not really. I mean, initial days you don't really need threading.
Okay.
Probably later on you might build applications which are going to be on the net, on the internet, and probably at that time you might want to take a look at multi-threading.
Okay.
But at the same time, if you know multi-threading, that will help you understand Hadoop much faster.
Okay.
And of course, You also need to understand networking because you
Yeah.
are going to be having clusters, you're going to be having communication happening across multiple components, multiple machines. So
Mhm.
it's not a must, but if you know that, if you understand that, it will help you learn things faster. It will help you make things clearer. It will not be magic for you. It will be something which is technology related.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and we got one question from Vikram Reddy, and the question is, does Hadoop have any comfortable framework associated with it? I had no
Okay.
idea.
Uh, I'm assuming that we are talking about frameworks which we can use with Hadoop. As
Yeah.
I said, there are about 40 to 45 different components available with Hadoop, and you can use any one of them, but each of them is specifically targeted for a specific requirement. I mean, for
Okay.
example, if you take a look at, let's start with the basic thing. HDFS is for storage. MapReduce
Okay.
is for data retrieval. Then you have Hive and Pig, which is going to be used for data analysis. You're going to be
Okay.
having HBase, which is going to be used for data storage with NoSQL. It's a columnar database. Then you have
Mm-hmm.
something called as Flume and Scoop, which will allow you to get the data from the real world, maybe from databases, maybe from Twitter, maybe from Facebook, and store it in Hadoop directly. Okay.
Okay.
Then you're going to be having something called as Ambari. You're going to be having something called as Mahout. There is something called as Taze. You
Okay.
might also realize that there are lots of frameworks names which are Indian origin.
Okay.
The major reason is that lots of development in Hadoop ecosphere is being driven by Indian technocrats.
Oh, that's great.
So there is a precedent for Indians to get into Hadoop. So
Perfect.
there are lots of questions coming in. There is one question which I'm seeing suddenly. You are skipping my questions by Mia Khalifa. I didn't see the original one. So
Yeah, I guess we need to just go. In fact, we'll get one more question from Bia then. Okay.
okay, which framework would be better for starters? Uh, I would suggest that you should go with HDFS MapReduce, which you will always need. You will need to learn Yarn, and I would suggest two, three more which you should learn as a fresher. One is Hive, the second is Pig, and the third which I would suggest would be HBase.
Okay. Yeah, we have a question from Karan Mukhija. Do you take online courses for Hadoop training? Any suggestion for the same? Chetan, are you taking any online training?
As of right now, no, but we are in the talks with someone by which we'll make the channel open after some time. So
Okay.
probably 3 to 4 months down the line, we might have a complete online presence available.
Oh, that's great because in so Telusko learning people, there are so many people they want to go for Hadoop now.
Right.
So great. Uh, okay, let's pick up next one. Mm,
Right.
okay.
There's one request to people who have been commenting that we are skipping their questions. Please understand that we are not skipping it on purpose. It's just that your questions are coming so fast that we are not able to keep track of that. So
Okay,
whichever
that's
you
right.
are
That's
seeing
the
right
problem which I
now.
face in every live session. Yeah.
Okay, what is HBase? I can see that.
Okay.
HBase is a NoSQL database which is column based. So you will not have any kind of rows associated with that. You will be storing only cells. To give you an analogy, it will be similar to how you store the data in Excel, if you've seen Excel. So in Excel, you talk about the data not in terms of rows and columns, you talk about in terms of cells that you have
Yeah.
A1, B65, C95, or something like that. So HBase also stores the data similar to that. You have a row ID which will identify a specific row, and you will have a column. So you need not, it's not mandatory for you to store all the data in a single row because there's nothing like row. You get the data as it comes and store it in cellular fashion, right?
Mhm.
So what is going to be of more interest to the database from point of view is that columns are more important than the rows. So we'll focus more on columns.
Okay. In fact, I would like to answer this question. Now, there's so many people that are saying from where we should learn this. Okay, so I know, it's very difficult to answer that question because it's very new. So when I started learning Hadoop, what I did is I went to some websites, which is one of them is Udemy, and then I bought some courses, and then I didn't like any course. Then I bought a book, and then I referred that book. And then when you refer a book, it's perfect. The book was very good, but sometimes we also need some prerequisites. So what I do is when I was learning Hadoop for the first time, I was reading the book, and somewhere the moment I see a difficult concept, I used to go online. I used to search about that particular concept and then come back. I guess that's the problem with the world of new technologies, right? We don't have any perfect, what do you
Correct.
say, learning sources. There might be a lot of websites where you can learn Hadoop. I'm not sure if it is free, but there's so many resources available. Just try that. It's very difficult to answer that. So just go on Google, maybe on YouTube, and search for different videos on Hadoop. You should get something.
Right.
But trust
So
me,
one
if
question
you try
on,
it, it's
yeah,
awesome.
right. Sorry. Naveen, there was one question on machine learning and its scope. So, machine learning, there was also a couple of questions associated with machine learning and Hadoop
Yeah.
in terms of how machine learning connects with Hadoop and what is the scope associated with that. So, I would
Mhm.
say that machine learning is going to be a huge tool associated with Hadoop because if you remember initially, I said that there's something called as predictive modeling.
Yeah.
So, for predictive modeling, the algorithms which are going to be created are mostly being developed using machine learning.
Okay.
And a very trivial but very popular use of machine learning is your chatbots.
Okay.
Nowadays, lots of websites are using chatbots in terms of, you go to the website and a pop-up comes in that we are online. You give us a question and we'll respond to that. What
Yeah.
most of us don't realize is that there is nobody answering those questions,
Yeah, that's right.
right? There's no person who's monitoring your questions. It's a bot which is looking at your questions. It does the text analytics based on the tools that we have just talked about. Then it uses machine learning algorithms to make sense of what the text is, and it picks up the correct answer based on what the question is using the context and replies to that. So from the scope point of view, machine learning is, again, I mean, I might have used this word earlier, but machine learning is going to be huge. It's going to be here. Even if Hadoop goes away, machine learning will be here forever.
Okay. Perfect. Hmm, I can see some more questions. In fact, it's 3 minutes left because this was a 1 hour session. It's
Right.
almost, we are doing a session for 2 days now. So day one started and then we're
Okay.
ending at 12. Okay, perfect. So we can pick up one or two questions more, Chetan.
Sure. Let's see. Is
How about
data
the marks?
science?
I can see so many questions there. What's the importance of marks? Let's say if someone scores 50% or
Not
55%.
really. Not really.
That's,
Let me repeat again that this field is very new.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, the reason why companies go for your academic qualifications is because they want to filter out people from the huge amount of resumes that they get.
Hmm.
Okay. So the filtering is, I'm sorry, filtering is done based on either certifications or your academic qualifications or your experiences and so on and so forth. With Hadoop,
Yeah.
if you know Hadoop, people will put out red carpet for you.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, if you're good at Hadoop, nobody will care whether you are 12th pass or 10th fail or anything. Okay,
Yeah.
of course I'm exaggerating, but nobody cares about your marks if you're good at technology. Okay, so there will be certain companies, there will be certain processes which will look at your academic qualifications. But again, there's a trend which we are seeing for the last couple of years is that more and more companies are now shifting away from your educational qualification to your experience and your problem solving capabilities,
Yeah, that's right.
right? I mean, I have been part of an organization which has lots of interviews happening every 6 months or so, and what we are seeing in that is that the first interview round is always on the aptitude, and after that,
Hmm.
rather than sending the participants to interviews, they give them a problem statement,
Okay.
and it's an open-ended problem statement that you sit here, write the code, solve the problem, show us the output, then we'll decide whether to call you for interview or not,
Hmm.
right? So marks won't really matter a lot. Or what will definitely matter is your skill, and your problem solving capability.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So it's 12 a.m. So that's time is up. I know it's you were very busy, Chetan, and then you took out some time to help our candidates. In fact, I would love if you can come for these type of sessions again, maybe on some
Definitely,
different topic.
definitely.
Yeah. So any final thing for my aliens, so if just for motivation, so
Okay.
that when tomorrow
Okay.
morning when they get up, Sunday morning, they'll be doing something.
Okay. Let me tell you one thing. That restricting ourselves to Hadoop is one thing, but if I talk in the bigger picture, if you talk about technology, then
Yeah.
since you are already in the field, please be aware that learning technology is going to be easy if you just believe that it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
Okay? Please don't be afraid of the technology.
Yeah.
It's not really rocket science. Okay. And second thing which I've been trying to push for the last few years is that there is a perception in the Western countries that Indian programmers are code monkeys.
Okay.
When you put them in front of a screen and give them some code to write, they'll start banging away the code. We would like to
Yeah.
change that perception. We would like to have thinking programmers, right? So,
Mhm.
guys, my only suggestion is that you need just common sense to build code.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that all of you have it because we are Indians. We are good at jugaad,
Yeah.
right? So we have lots of common sense. Use that. Think about what the problem is. Find the optimum solution. Don't go by what you think is a standard way to do things. You
Yeah.
can change the scenario. You can be somebody, different than a normal standard programmer,
Hmm.
right? All of you have the potential to be great programmers. Please unlock that. And I'm sure that if
Yeah.
you keep on talking to Naveen, he's going to give you more doses in terms of unlocking that potential. Naveen,
I'll try my best.
right, right. So that's it from me. And if you have any further questions, please let them be passed on to Naveen, and we'll do something by which we'll try to get back to you with whatever answers that might be required.
Yeah. I hope Chetan, you will reply to my messages after the session as well. Yeah. So I
Yes,
kept you busy for
definitely.
long. So again, we'll try to get Chetan again for next some other topic because he's an amazing speaker. Uh, so that's great, Chetan. Thank you so much for joining the sessions,
Thank you, Naveen, for
and
having
thanks
me.
everyone for joining the session so late. Uh, so
Yes, guys. So thank you very much. You waited patiently to listen to what I had to say, and it was a good experience. I hope we meet again.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Chetan.
Okay, thanks.